Have you ever found yourself in like this incredibly frustrating loop? You sit down with an employee, you give them a piece of constructive feedback, and you leave thinking, well, that meeting went really well.
Oh, yeah, you think you completely nailed it.
Right. But then, a month later, they are doing the exact same thing. So you have the conversation again, you use different words, maybe you try a different angle.
And then another month goes by.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Still no change. It's Monday morning, they're acting like the conversation never even happened, and you were probably sitting there wondering, like, are they just completely ignoring me?
It is an almost universal experience in the professional world, honestly, and it usually leads managers to a breaking point where they just assume the employee is, either incapable of change or intentionally defiant.
Yeah, totally. But you know what the reality usually is? You think you're being kind by softening the blow. You think you are protecting their feelings.
Which is such a common trap.
It really is.
Yeah.
But according to the deep dive we are doing today into the mechanics of corporate English and effective feedback, your gentleness isn't kindness at all.
Not even close.
Welcome to our corporate English deep dive. Today's mission is to give you the exact, actionable script to completely change how you deliver critique. We are going to extract the precise phrases that make feedback specific enough to actually be useful.
Right, and direct enough to be heard without, completely destroying your workplace relationships.
So that tension you just highlighted, the battle between being kind and being clear, is really the core paradox we have to dismantle today.
Absolutely, because in corporate environments, managers constantly confuse gentleness with kindness.
Oh, all the time.
Right. When you look closely at the linguistics and the psychology of these conversations, vague feedback is actually incredibly cruel. It's just unhelpful noise.
It just leaves people guessing.
Exactly. If we are being totally honest here, when a manager softens feedback to the point of ambiguity, they aren't protecting the employee's feelings. They are protecting their own comfort.
Oof, that is a bitter pill to swallow. I mean, I know I've been guilty of it. You sit across from someone and say, hey, I really think there's some room to develop your stakeholder communication.
Yeah, the classic vague corporate speak.
Right. And you pat yourself on the back for a job well done. Meanwhile, you have just left them completely in the dark.
They have no idea what to do on Monday morning.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's get into the mechanics of fixing this. I want to start at the exact moment you sit down in the chair. Because the data from our sources suggests that how you open the conversation basically dictates whether they hear anything else you say.
Oh, absolutely. If you get the first 30 seconds wrong, you might as well just cancel the meeting.
Wow, really? Just cancel it.
Yeah, and to understand why, we have to look past corporate etiquette and look directly at neuroscience.
Okay, I love this stuff.
It's fascinating. There is this research from the Neuro Leadership Institute that maps exactly what happens in the human brain during a performance review. They found that the brain processes critical feedback through the exact same neural pathways as a literal physical threat.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting this. The brain doesn't neurologically differentiate between your boss saying, you need to improve your spreadsheets and like a predator jumping out of the bushes.
Biologically speaking, no, it doesn't.
That is wild.
It really is. When a person feels their status or their competence is being criticized, the amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, it lights up instantly. You experience an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack.
Right. And here's the crucial mechanical part of that. When the brain perceives a threat, it pulls blood flow and energy away from the prefrontal cortex.
And that's the part we need for work.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where logic, reason, and learning actually take place.
So it reroutes everything to survival mode, fight or flight.
Precisely. Learning literally shuts down on a biological level. So if you walk into a room, exchange some pleasantries, and then suddenly drop a piece of critical feedback on someone cold, they are neurologically incapable of processing it as helpful information.
Because they are defending their survival.
Yes.
Well, that explains about 90% of the defensiveness I've seen in my career.
Right. It makes so much sense in hindsight.
So how do we linguistically hack that? I was looking at the exact opening corporate English phrase suggested to bypass this threat response, and it's our first major actionable takeaway for you to use.
It's a game changer.
Okay, so before you give the feedback, you say this exact sentence. You say, I want to have a conversation that is useful to you, and that means I need to be direct about something.
The wording there is doing an immense amount of heavy lifting.
I really compare it to being at the doctor's office. Think about when you're getting a shot or, getting your blood drawn.
Okay, yeah.
The nurse doesn't just jam the needle in your arm while you're talking about the weather. They pause, they look at you, and they say, okay, this is going to pinch a little bit.
They give you a warning.
Right. They give you a split second to brace yourself. It entirely removes the shock. You're signaling that the pain is coming from a place of service. Like it's a medical treatment, not a random assault.
That is exactly what you are doing linguistically with this phrase. Let's break down the mechanics of it. You are naming the intent before you name the issue.
The intent being to help.
Exactly. By starting with, I want to have a conversation that is useful to you, you explicitly frame the interaction. You are telling their amygdala, hey, I am an ally, not a predator. I am doing this for you, not to you.
And the word useful is so specific there. Not important, not serious, but useful.
Right, because useful implies a tool. It's something they can use for their own benefit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And then the second half of the phrase, and that means I need to be direct about something, completely removes the ambiguity. You aren't tricking them.
You're setting the table.
Exactly. Language here isn't just about being polite. It is the literal mechanism by which you keep their blood flow in the prefrontal cortex. You keep the learning centers open.
All right, so you've disarmed the threat response. They're sitting there, they're braced, they know you are trying to help.
The door is open.
But if you open your mouth now and drop a vague judgmental bomb on them, you're right back to square one.
Oh, instantly. The amygdala will fire right back up.
You have to articulate the problem properly. Let's ground this in a real scenario. Imagine you are managing an employee named, let's say, Daniel.
Daniel is the perfect case study for this.
Okay, so Daniel is a smart, highly capable analyst on your team. He's been in the role for about 18 months, and his technical work behind a computer screen is just phenomenal.
Great at the job itself.
Right. But there is a major problem. When you bring Daniel into client presentations, he interrupts people.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He answers questions before the client has even fully finished asking them. So his output is great, but his reputational impact is really tanking.
That's tough.
2 different client leads have informally complained to you about it. And here's the kicker. Daniel has absolutely no idea he is doing it. He thinks he's killing it.
Oh, man. This is a classic high-stakes management moment. It doesn't look like a traditional performance crisis because, he isn't failing his core tasks.
He's still doing the math right.
Exactly. But this specific behavior will absolutely put a ceiling on his career progression. People just won't want to work with him.
And you, as the manager, are the only person who can illuminate this blind spot for him.
Right. It's your responsibility.
If I were to do this the way most managers do, I'd probably sit down and say, Daniel, you really need to work on your soft skills. Or maybe, Daniel, you're being really aggressive in client meetings.
And we know that fails immediately.
Right. Instead, we have to use the observation phrase. This is pure, effective corporate English. You look at Daniel and you say, I want to share something specific I have observed, and I want to be precise about it.
Notice the setup there. You are promising precision, which forces you to actually deliver it.
You can't be vague after saying that.
Exactly. This introduces the rule of specificity, which is honestly where most corporate feedback completely falls apart.
So what makes it specific enough?
A valid observation must contain 3 highly specific elements: the behavior, the exact moment, and the context.
Okay, behavior, moment, context. So I don't say, like, you're bad at meetings. I say, Daniel, during the Hartley presentation on Tuesday, you answered the client's budget question before she had finished asking it.
Yes, exactly. The behavior, the moment, the context.
Now, I have to push back here for a second, because as someone who has managed teams, it is incredibly tempting to add a little subjective flavor to that sentence.
Oh, I know it is.
Why can't I just tell him he was being rude? Or that he was acting unprofessionally?
Sure.
Doesn't that convey the severity of the situation a bit better?
It might convey your own internal frustration better, sure, but it will instantly derail the feedback session.
Really? Just one word like rude?
Yes, because adjectives are interpretations. Words like rude, unprofessional, or aggressive are judgments about a person's character.
Ah, I see.
As soon as you introduce a judgment, you invite an argument. Daniel can immediately sit there and say, I wasn't being rude at all. I was being efficient. I knew what she was going to ask, so I saved us all time.
Oh, yeah. I can totally hear someone saying that.
Right. Now you are trapped in a debate about his personality, and you've completely lost the focus on the behavior itself.
That makes so much sense. It completely corners them into reality.
Yeah.
Like, you can argue with me about whether you were acting rude, but you absolutely cannot argue with me about the clock.
You can't argue with time.
Did you speak while she was still speaking? Yes. That is an undeniable fact. You eliminate the debate by eliminating the adjective.
Exactly. Keep the adjectives out of it. But an observation of a fact still isn't quite enough. The behavior has to mean something to Daniel's future.
Which brings us to the impact phrase. You say, the reason this matters is, and here is what it costs you.
Yes, you have to tie it to their reality, not yours.
Right. You don't say, like, the reason this matters is because it stresses me out when I have to apologize to clients.
Nobody cares about the manager's stress.
Sad but true. You say, the reason this matters is that client leads are noticing, and it is going to negatively affect how they perceive your readiness for a senior role.
You are connecting the dots for them. You are showing them the invisible consequences of their actions.
But human nature being what it is, even if you execute that perfectly, Daniel's probably still going to try to defend himself, isn't he?
Almost certainly.
He's going to jump in and say, but wait, I was just trying to show the client that our team completely understands the problem. How do you handle that inevitable pushback without invalidating him?
Well, first, you just have to expect the pushback. Intent in the workplace is almost always positive. Very few people wake up, trying to sabotage a meeting.
Right. Daniel really was trying to demonstrate competence.
So we use the deflection phrase. I hear you, and I want to separate the intent from the impact.
I want to separate the intent from the impact.
It is a highly effective linguistic frame. It allows you to acknowledge that they meant well, which helps de-escalate their defensive tension while holding the line on the reality of the damage caused.
Let me challenge that slightly, though. Doesn't that risk sounding completely dismissive?
What do you mean?
If you were my employee and you say, I was just trying to help the team, and I immediately shoot back with, let's separate intent from impact, aren't I basically saying, shut up, I don't care why you did it, just fix it?
That is a phenomenal point, and it brings up one of the most critical nuances regarding cultural context and communication styles.
Oh, this is so important.
The phrase itself is structurally sound, but your delivery has to adapt based on who is sitting across from you. In certain cultural contexts, particularly high-power distance cultures where direct authority is heavily respected,
Right.
or cultures that heavily prioritize relationship building and saving face over blunt efficiency, in those cases, separating intent from impact that aggressively will absolutely feel dismissive.
So how do you actually adapt it in real time? Give me a concrete example.
Let's say you are managing a culturally diverse international team. You have an employee from a culture that deeply values honoring effort.
Okay.
If you skip over their intentions, they will feel profoundly disrespected and they will just stop listening. You have to read the room and explicitly honor their explanation first.
So you don't use the phrase right away.
Exactly. You might spend an extra minute saying, I genuinely understand you are doing this because you are eager to add value. I see your enthusiasm, and that drive is exactly why you are on this team.
Oh, wow. So you are validating their intent as a factual reality.
Right. You anchor their good intentions, which lowers their shield. Only then do you pivot. You say, because I value that intent, I want to make sure we look at the impact that behavior is actually having, which unfortunately is separate from what you intended.
That is so smooth.
The destination is exactly the same. We are still separating the two, but the path you take respects the person's cultural or psychological needs.
That is a huge distinction. Okay, so you've laid out the facts. You've respected his intent. Daniel isn't arguing anymore. He sees the impact.
We're in a good spot now.
But there is a massive danger here. If you stop talking now, you just leave him sitting in a crater of his own failure.
Yes. Just feeling terrible about himself.
How do we pull him out of that and actually get him to change his behavior?
This is where the conversation must aggressively shift from looking backwards to looking forward.
Which gives us the pivot phrase. You say, I am not raising this to dwell on what happened. I am raising it because I think you can change it quickly.
The psychology of this shift is just incredible. In one sentence, you transform the entire interaction from a heavy, backward-looking criticism into a forward-looking vote of confidence.
It's a psychological challenge. You were essentially saying, I believe in your competence enough to know this is a quick fix for you.
Precisely. If you didn't think they could fix it, you wouldn't be having a feedback conversation. You'd be putting them on a performance improvement plan.
Right. You'd be talking to HR.
Exactly. By explicitly stating that you know they can change it quickly, you invite them to rise to the occasion. People respond to a challenge much more dynamically than they respond to a reprimand.
So how do we set the specific terms of that challenge? This is where the concept of the absurdly specific rule of one comes in.
I love this rule.
The commitment phrase you use in corporate English is, here is the one thing I would like you to try in the next 2 weeks.
Notice the strict constraints there. One thing, 2 weeks.
It is so much like sports coaching. I always think about a baseball coach watching a pitcher struggle on the mound.
Okay, I can picture that.
If the coach walks out there and just yells, throw better, or be more accurate, I mean, that is totally useless. The pitcher already knows they need to throw better.
Right, it doesn't help them at all.
But if the coach says, keep your elbow tucked right before you release the ball, that is a physical, actionable cue. The pitcher can actually do that.
It's mechanical.
Abstract advice in the corporate world, things like be more patient or listen better, is exactly like yelling, throw better. It just evaporates the second they leave the room.
So applying that to Daniel, what is the tucked elbow for his interrupting habit?
You give him a concrete mechanism. You say, for the next 2 weeks, when a client asks a question, I want you to count 2 full seconds in your head before you open your mouth to answer.
It leaves absolutely zero gray area.
Monday morning rolls around, Daniel goes into a meeting, a client asks a question, and Daniel knows exactly what is expected of him. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Talk. And that is exactly why it works. True behavioral change requires concrete actions. If a piece of feedback requires real-time interpretation in the heat of a high-pressure moment,
They won't do it.
no, the employee's brain will default right back to their old, comfortable habits.
Okay, so we have built this perfect script for what to say. But to truly master the language of feedback, we also need to expose the toxic phrases that we need to completely scrub from our corporate vocabulary.
Yes, the things you absolutely must not say.
The linguistic habits we lean on, thinking we are helping, when we are actually doing active damage to the employee's development.
There are a few big ones.
And the first one is the absolute classic. I groan every time I hear it used. The feedback sandwich.
Ooh, the sandwich.
You all know it. Compliment, criticism, compliment. Like, Daniel, you're doing a great job on the analytics, but your client skills are terrible. But hey, we really love your energy in the office.
It is arguably the most commonly taught management technique in the world, and it is terribly fundamentally flawed.
It's like putting a warning label about toxic poison inside a beautifully wrapped, shiny birthday present. The packaging completely distracts you from the danger inside. Why do we process it that way?
It comes down to how human attention and memory work. When you use that structure, people only hear the bread, and they completely ignore the meat in the middle.
You just focus on the good stuff.
Right. The compliments dilute the severity of the feedback to the point where the brain doesn't even register it as a threat or a priority that needs to be fixed. The employee walks away feeling great, thinking, wow, they really love my energy.
They miss the actual critique entirely.
Completely. If you are invested in someone, signal that investment explicitly up front. That was the whole point of our opening phrase, right?
I want to have a conversation that is useful to you.
Exactly. Establish your care and intent first, and then deliver the direct truth. Do not use generic compliments as a cushion to bury the reality of their performance.
That makes total sense. Stop wrapping the poison in wrapping paper.
Exactly.
The second major do not is what is called the evasive phrase. You start by saying, I just want you to be aware.
Oh.
This is usually followed by the dreaded, I just want you to be aware that some people have noticed you interrupting. Oof. I've definitely been guilty of using that one when I didn't want to seem like the bad guy. Why is that so toxic?
Because, fundamentally, it is an act of managerial cowardice.
Wow, cowardice. Tell me how you really feel.
I mean, it's true. When you attribute feedback to unnamed others, you are completely distancing yourself from the responsibility of the critique.
You're playing the innocent messenger. Hey, don't be mad at me. Some people said it.
Exactly. And worse than that, it leaves the severity of the issue completely ambiguous for the employee.
Because they don't know who some people are.
Right. If you tell Daniel some people have noticed, he has no idea how to calibrate his response to that. Does some people mean one intern mentioned it offhand at the coffee machine? Or does it mean the CEO and 3 vice presidents are furious?
He has no idea.
He doesn't know. To be effective, you must be the undeniable source of the feedback. Tell them what you observed and tell them what you know to be true.
Own the observation. I love that.
Really?
Okay, so we've delivered the precise feedback, we've avoided the toxic phrases, and we've given them their one specific thing to try for 2 weeks.
Now we have to close the loop.
Yes. The final actionable phrase for you today is, let's check back in 2 weeks, not to review what happened, but to see how the change is landing.
This is a masterful way to build in structural accountability, and you do it without making the employee feel like they are under a microscope or being micromanaged.
Not to review what happened. I absolutely love that phrasing. It's like saying, the file on your past mistake is permanently closed. We are only looking forward at the new data.
It completely reframes the follow-up meeting. It's no longer a trial where they are brought back in to be judged again for the exact same offense.
It's simply a progress check on a new skill.
Right. And the 2-week time frame is highly intentional. It perfectly matches the one thing you asked them to try. It feels entirely proportionate.
You aren't hovering over their desk every day?
No, but you also aren't letting the feedback evaporate into the ether to be forgotten by Monday morning.
So, bring this all together. What does this actually mean for you the next time you have to manage someone? If we step back and look at this entire linguistic structure, the core thesis is profound. Vague feedback is not kind.
It is not kind at all.
It is just comfortable for the manager. True kindness, real professional respect, is having the courage to give someone the exact specific information they need to grow, even if it feels a little uncomfortable for you to say out loud.
When you execute this conversation properly with true precision and clear supportive intent, you are doing something for that employee that they literally cannot do for themselves.
You are eliminating their blind spots.
And accelerating their career.
All right, I have a specific challenge for you, the listener. I want you to think of one piece of feedback you have been softening, or maybe delaying entirely because you just don't know how to word it without causing a fight.
We all have one.
We do. Before you say a single word to that person, sit down and write your specific observation in one single sentence. Remember the rule. Behavior, moment, context.
And no adjectives.
Do not use a single adjective.
Oh.
Just the facts. If you cannot write that sentence cleanly, you do not actually know what your feedback is yet.
That is the truth.
Write it first. Then use that opening phrase, I want to have a conversation that is useful to you, and go deliver it.
If you commit to that preparation, it will fundamentally change the dynamic of your working relationship.
It really will. And before we go, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over, building on the neuroscience we discussed at the very beginning.
Oh, this is a great point to leave on.
We know now that the human brain processes critical feedback as a literal physical threat, exactly like a predator in the wild. If that is true, how does the physical environment where you give that feedback change the way your words are biologically received?
That is such a fascinating dimension to consider.
Right. Think about it. Does cornering an employee in a sterile, glass-walled boardroom, sitting directly across a giant table from them, artificially heighten that biological threat response?
It probably does.
Compare that to, say, taking a walk outside, walking side by side, or maybe grabbing a coffee in a neutral open space. If the brain is desperately looking for signals of physical safety, maybe the physical room you choose matters just as much as the specific corporate phrases you use.
The physical environment absolutely sets the stage for the neurochemistry. It is a brilliant variable to keep in mind.
It is definitely something to think about the next time you draft your perfect feedback script, and then go to your calendar to book a meeting room. So remember, if you find yourself giving the exact same feedback 3 times, 3 months apart, well, it's time to change the script. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into corporate English and the language of effective feedback. We will see you next time.